Hi all, this is just a quick video to help you get started with the class. Because it's an introductory video, I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail. I just want to kind of go over the few basic things that you need to know to get the class started. I'm going to try to keep this video around 10 to 15 minutes, but it may go over um, depending on how things go. Okay, so this is a video for World History 1. When you first get to the course momentum page, you'll see these tabs at the top of the page. Materials, communication, and assessments are really the only ones that you're going to use. Um, Under materials, the content button will be really the only one of these that you'll need for my class. Class list probably will be important for emails, and then in assessments, Dropbox, grades, and quizzes will be the only sections under the assessments that you'll use. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and go to content, take a look at the syllabus, download. All right. Basic information at the top. I'm in Oak Ridge on Mondays and Wednesdays, and I'm in Harriman on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm typically in the room I'm going to teach in Oak Ridge. Before my classes start, I teach from 9:30 to 10:50, and from 12:30 until 1:50 in Oak Ridge, and in Harriman this semester, I will only be teaching from 9:30 to 10:50. So the best way to find me, if you want to meet with me in Oak Ridge, is to send me an email and let me know, because I don't really have an office in Oak Ridge. I just have cubicles that I go to. But in Harriman, I have an office. It's room O'Brien Building, room 218. Um, Typically going to be in the Harriman building before, not before I teach, so from 9 to 9:30, and after my class in Harriman from 10:50 to around 12:30. The later time will be more in the Oak Ridge campus, since I have class until 1:50 there. If you want to meet with me though, it's possible. I've students come to get me, and I've gone to help the student at the library. It's possible a faculty member or my boss has come to see me. So just send me an email before you come by, just to make 100% sure that I'm going to be there. All right. I'm not going to worry about, it's world history. It's online. I think you can probably figure out we're going to be talking about world history. Pre and co-requisites. There is writing. There's a writing component to this class. It's not just multiple choice. So if you have difficulty with writing, if you're not enrolled in or haven't already taken a comp class or some sort of developmental writing class, or reading, because it means history. It's a lot of reading. It's a lot of thinking and writing. You may have some difficulty. In fact, you're not even supposed to be able to register for this class if you're not in English 1010 or have already taken English 1010. So if that's the case, you probably should let me know so we can figure out what's going on. Um, as far as the textbook goes, um, this is, if you've had me for an online class before, we've used the MindTap system with quizzes and the chapters and things like that. We're not using that this time. We finally broken free of the iron grip of Cengage and MindTap. But since this is an online class, I think a book might be helpful. Um, watch the rest of this video to kind of see how the class is going to work, to see how the lectures, the recorded lectures, the PowerPoints, and things like that are going to work. You may decide, hey, I think I can make it without a book, but maybe not. So I would encourage you, if history's not something you're great at, maybe having access to a textbook, it might be helpful. I've negotiated the price down to around $55. That's cheaper than the 85 that we have with the MindTap, but it's still an expense. It's only for, you only get this for one semester, so you have to weigh that as well. I think the library should have at least one copy of this, so maybe you could use the library's copy occasionally if you wanted to get by with that, or maybe you want to just buy a cheap used version of something like this online. Totally up to you. Um, I recommend, again, if you have trouble with history sometimes, maybe a textbook would be a good way to go. It's going to be pretty helpful since the only things you can use for the midterm and the final are my lectures, PowerPoints, and the textbook. Maybe that would be helpful, but maybe you take really good notes. Maybe my lectures and my PowerPoints are enough. You have to figure out what you need in that situation. Okay, just and email me if you have a question. Hey, what do you mean by this? Do you think in this situation I need one? I'll be happy to give you a direct response. In terms of the grades, so you have these different assignments, and all together they give you your final grade. You'll have 7 quizzes, and I'll explain what those are in just a minute. You'll have a midterm and a final, and then you'll have 3 writing assignments, and we'll look at each of those in a little bit more detail, not much, coming up in just a second. It's your responsibility to know these due dates. Look, I understand people have lives, things come up, but you're also enrolled in the class. If you don't want to be enrolled in the class, don't be enrolled in the class. You're presumably, most of you are 18. You can make your own decisions. So, keep up with this stuff. I've changed my late work policy. It's one of the important course documents that I have in course content. And if you don't let me know within a week that you've missed something, I'm not letting you make it up. I'm tired of this last minute crap. People come in, oh, it's the last minute. Well, yeah, I get it. I understand, family sicknesses, you're sick, you have a car wreck. I know stuff like that happens, but let me know. Say, hey, I need to make this up. Don't just wait till, wait till the last minute. How do I know you're not just bullshitting me and making it up? I don't. So, and it's a lot of extra work too, because I got to go back and figure out, did you do this? Extra grading at the end of the semester. So that's why I've changed the policy. So you need to understand the due dates. These due dates are going to be posted in Momentum. They're also at the end of this syllabus, so there's no reason you shouldn't know that. Plagiarism policy is pretty straightforward. If you have questions about plagiarism, you need to ask me before you write something that might be plagiarism, but basically I submit all your written work to Turnitin. If Turnitin.com says this is plagiarized, I send it back to you and say fix it or take a 0. So pretty straightforward. There will be a course librarian enrolled in the class that will help you with some of the writing assignments. Always wonderful, always great help. So I encourage you to take advantage of that. There will also, we also have a learning center, and these people, like the library, they're not here to do your work for you, but they're there to help you and support you as you do it. So I encourage you to take into account that you have these facilities available. There are people here who are good at writing, who can help you understand assignments, who can help you get your thoughts collected, can help you come up with ways and ideas about how to write. And if you have trouble with those sorts of things, go to the website, go to the Learning Center at either the Oak Ridge or the Roane County campus, talk to them. Same thing with the library. Go talk to a librarian, talk to the course librarian. They want to help you. They love to help you. It makes them happy to help you. It's like puppies. They make people happy, right? Maybe. Here are the due dates. If you have any questions about these, again, if you feel like you're not going to be able to make something in, get something in by a particular due date, you need to let me know ahead of time. Or, you can't let me know ahead of time you're going to have a car wreck or something like that. But let me know within a week. Say, hey, this has come up. Can you help me? Happy to work with you as long as you let me know. Okay. So we've got all these other documents here. I'm not going to go over all these other documents because if I just go over them, you're not going to pay attention. You may have may have already zoned out a little bit. I'm not sure. I can't see your face. So I don't know. But read these, and that's why I'm not going over these. I want you to read them and ask me if you have questions. I want you to sort of try to figure out what's going on in here. Because this is an online class. I'm not going to see you all the time. I'm not going to see you. I may see some of you. I may never see some of you. So you got to take some initiative to read and learn what's going to be expected of you. If you can't do that, you're probably going to have a hard time taking an online class, and I would encourage you to take a live class where you see someone and you can talk to them more often, that kind of stuff. So, okay. How does this class work? All right, well, you have these units over here, and again, I'll say your setup may look a little different from mine because I can edit the course and you can't, but essentially you'll have all these units, and these units will have PowerPoints. I don't have these up yet, but I will have lectures that will accompany the PowerPoints, so you'll be able to listen to what I say about the slides. I'm not going to go over it. Normally for each of these slides, I would maybe take a week or so, maybe longer in a class. I'm not going to spend that much time because I assume you can read some of the slides. I'm going to try to sort of tailor a lecture to getting the main point across, to giving you some conceptual tools for understanding what I have in the slides. But studying the slides, reading the slides, on that, I'm kind of leave that up to you because again, it's an online class, um, and you by taking this, you should sort of be able to work through some of this stuff on your own. That's not to say I'm just going to leave you high and dry. That's not what I mean, but I, I I don't want to just read the slides to you. You can read. I think you can figure that out. If you can't read the slides, we have another problem that we need to try to deal with. I'm also going to try to give you a little sort of a heading, a little sort of explanation, and maybe try to give you some page numbers in the book. I haven't got that up here yet because the way I teach the class is a little different than the way the book that we have is set up. Um, Again, one of the reasons we have this book is not because it corresponds with the way I teach, but because it was the cheap deal I got from Cengage. Again, much cheaper than what we used to have to get. So, but it still works. It may not, Unit 1 may not line up with Chapter 1, but the information is still in the textbook. You can use the index, and again, I'll try to give you some page numbers to look at. Um, but the way I sort of envision this class working is, maybe since we have 7 units, maybe 1 unit every 2 weeks. Go through the PowerPoint, listen to the lecture, look in the book at the corresponding sections, and again, those will be put up before the class goes live. And uh, let me know. Email me questions. Let me know if you have any questions. Okay, so you have all these units. The first sort of grading component you're going to get from these units are quizzes. And if you go to assessments and you go to quizzes, well, there you go, Unit 1 quiz. These quizzes are set up so that you can take them twice. You may get different questions. For example, this quiz has as its total number of questions 14, but it's set to only give you 8 every time you take it. So you can have multiple attempts to take the quiz, but you may not get the same questions. This quiz will cover the PowerPoints for Unit 1 and my lecture over the PowerPoints. So just keep that in mind. There will eventually be 7 of these. The other information that you're going to get from the PowerPoints and lectures, and maybe a little bit from the book too, is information for your final exam and your midterm. So your midterm and your final exam are going to have 2 parts. One is a multiple choice section, and that multiple choice section will be set up just like the quizzes, except there will be more questions. There will be a total of 25 questions, each worth 2 points for a possible total of 50 points, and that will be half of your midterm and your final exam score. The other half of the exam is going to be a written component, and you'll get a study guide for those exams that will have multiple choice items as well as options for essays. So the midterm, the other quizzes they're not here yet. I've not put them up yet, but they will be as time goes on, as the class continues. So let's go back to content. So for the midterm and for the final exam, maybe Unit 1 through part of Unit 4, and then part of Unit 4 through Unit 7. Those are going to be the sections of the sections of the course that are going to be in those exams. The final's not cumulative. It's just sort of from the second half on. So you may like that, you may not, but that's how I've set it up. So again, you'll have multiple choice questions. Most of those multiple choice questions will just be taken from the quizzes. So you may see some of the same questions over and over again. The essay portion is, when I send the study guide out, and the study guide will be posted under the important course documents, sort of after this film critique assignment description. It will have essay options. You pick one of those options, and then write an essay. The essay has to be 1,200 words. The only sources you can use are the textbook, if you have one, my lectures, and the PowerPoints. I don't want a bunch of Jim Bob's blog or history.com or any of that stuff. I want to see that you've paid attention to the course, that you've listened to these lectures, that you've read the PowerPoints, and that you've engaged with the material. So you'll write an essay in answer to one of a set of questions that I pose. You get to pick whichever question you want. You can And if you want to know more details about how that looks, look at the grading policies, look at the midterm and final. Again, I want you to read these. I'm not going to go over these in detail. I want you to read them because that's going to, that will, one, if you read it, you're going to learn it better, and two, I'll be able to tell who's read and who hasn't. I think by the way you respond, the essays and those sorts of things. Okay, so far we've covered the quizzes. That's 15% of your grade. The midterm and the final. Each of those counts 20% of your grade. The final part of your grade. And we're going to go to drop boxes here, and you can see here's your drop box for your essay, for your midterm, and your final with appropriate due dates, each their own due dates. You're also going to have a cumulative writing project, and in this writing project, you're going to pick a film. We'll say, for the sake of argument for this class, Gladiator, although I don't want everyone to do Gladiator, please, for the sake of all that is good and holy. I don't want 20 Gladiator papers. But we'll use it as an example because it's a good example, and it's one I do sometimes in my Western Civ classes. The idea is that you pick a non-documentary film, so something that's a drama or a comedy, a funny thing happened on the way to the forum, a film that's sort of, there's no narration in terms of like a historian saying this is how things were. It's just sort of a story set in the past, and you're going to critique how accurately those people portray the past. This assignment's not something that's sort of like, we've got to watch all historical films now and make sure they're accurate. That's not the goal here. The goal here is to teach you to do research and then come up with your own ideas and then apply those ideas in writing to convince someone of an argument. I think it's easier than just doing a plain old research paper. So how does this assignment work? Well, the first thing you do if you pick Gladiator, read a summary. I mean, I think it would probably be a good idea to pick a film you've seen before so you kind of have an idea of what it's about. You could also pick one that seems interesting and watch it. I do want it to stay within the bounds of the class, so it needs to be set before, let's say, the year 1500. Anything that has to do with world history that's not a documentary before 1500. But then you're going to pick out things in the film. So, for instance, if we use Gladiator, gladiatorial combat in Imperial Rome, the Colosseum, architecture, Commodus, Marcus Aurelius, all those things are things you can find sources for to get an understanding of how that really was, how things were, how it really worked. And the bibliography is just a list of sources. Again, you can go and read this document on your own to see exactly the specifics of what I'm looking for, but that's kind of a general idea of what you're doing in that. The next assignment, the research paper, you're going to use those sources to write a paper that tells me how things were. And again, if we're doing Gladiator, who was Marcus Aurelius? How did he act? How did he live? How did he die? How did he look? Do we have statues? Same thing with Commodus. Same thing with Commodus' sister Lucilla. What about gladiatorial combat? Was there really some guy named Maximus that was a gladiator, that was a slave, and all this kind of stuff from the story? You're gonna, in the research paper, you're gonna tell me. Although I suppose you would, I don't want a whole lot of summary of the film in here. I don't. In fact, I just want the research paper to be facts about the past. Your take on facts about the past, your research presented to me in an essay format. So try to keep the film out of that. But yeah, just the research. And again, read the assignment description for a more detailed look at exactly what that's supposed to look like. And finally, the film paper, where you take what you've done so far. You've got sources. You've told me what it was really like in the research paper. In the film paper, you're going to use what you've learned from doing research. You're going to watch the film and say, okay, in these places the film's accurate, in this place the film's not. It's a paper where you critique the film's accuracy. So you have maybe a scene from the film, then you give me an equal amount of description of how things really were, and then you sort of tie it all together with your own ideas of how accurate or how inaccurate these things are. Again, if you go to materials, content, we have assignment descriptions for all these things. If you've had me before, I've changed these a little bit. So you may want to read them again, but these will give you what you need to know. And if they don't, just send me an email. But don't just send me an email and say, help me, I don't know how to do this. You may mean well when you send that email, but I have no idea what you need help with. I mean, if you say, help me, I don't know how to do this, I mean, to me, that sounds like you haven't even read it because you have no specifics. You don't say, okay, well, this part I don't understand, or this part I don't understand. And this, this can go sort of for any email you send me. Just be specific about what the problem is. I don't mind helping, but I got to know what the specific problem is before I can do that. Okay, so I think that's about everything. We've talked about Dropboxes. That's where you submit your essays, your papers, grades. You can look at that. You can see your grades should populate as you go through the course. Um, Seeing quizzes and how you access quizzes, and of course content with PowerPoints, lectures, as well as important course documents. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a good semester.